What's up, man? Mr. Casey Ashmore. Welcome to the weekly Patriot Business Alliance Winning on Wednesdays podcast, live cast, whatever. But we'll win today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your wins today, my man?
Man, wins this week. You know, I think my big win was I'm working out this morning. I listen to a lot of leadership books, a lot of self-development books, and I'm listening to a John Maxwell book.
Okay.
He's talking about being it's guidance on being an effective leader. And Maxwell had this to say about it. Sometimes you need to slow down. Sometimes you need to slow down and be a better teacher than you are a doer, right? Make that investment in time with your team.
Yeah.
So today I implemented that today, and I will say it was difficult, because I jealously guard my calendar, and I think white space is evil on your calendar. I like that thing stacked up. And sometimes that drives people crazy because it's overloaded. And, I've heard you work too much more times than I can count. That being said, though, I took that lesson today. It was a very positive lesson, and I did. I slowed down, and I spent what I thought was an extraordinary amount of time. It's an unusual amount of time to work with my team to make sure that this deal went off perfect, and it did. And you know what? And I think maybe my blood pressure went up a little bit because I'm standing there like, man, I got other things to do. But I was so glad I did it. And I was so glad I heard that this morning, doing my bike ride, that, John Maxwell's advice from this book. And so if that's something, a Wednesday win that you guys can get some nuggets out of, some benefit out of, sometimes you need to slow it down, especially when you're working with your team. Remember how your drill instructor did, right? When he showed you how to do, polish that mirror shine the first, or, when your coach said, hold on, let me show you how to shoot this free. The coach knows how to shoot a free throw.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the other takeaway real quick. Cause I got my egg timer going here. Just kidding. John Maxwell's mentor was John Wooden, the Hall of Fame coach from college basketball. And one thing that Wooden taught him when he was a young aspiring writer is that a basketball team has 10 hands, right? The basket goes in the hoop because of everybody on the floor. Everybody on the team has a part in that basket going in the hoop, not just the star, right? So if you're the Jordan of your team, if you're the superstar of your team, just make sure that you're spending time with those other folks to develop that.
Let me ask you a question real quick. If anybody knows you, really, really knows you, you're 100 miles an hour all day, every day. And I even call you on it sometimes and say, hey, slow your roll, dude. Like, you need to pump the brakes a little bit because you don't always have to be the yes man. Explain to me why you feel like white space in your calendar is a negative when I see white space in my calendar a different way. Why is it a negative to you, but I view it as a positive?
Well,
or is it a double-edged sword for you?
It's a double-edged sword. I like having a little bit of white space as a buffer.
Yeah.
For some projects run over, right? Some projects run over, but what I don't like is I just remember what my calendar used to look like. And that was back at the time when I thought I was getting so much done. And now I realize that was when I was an employee, frankly. That was when I was an employee. Yeah. And I'd go in and my calendar might have 2 things on it a day. 2. Mm-hmm. Now it's got like you got to find stuff. You got to stuff, you know, it looks like your sock drawer in your Foot Locker, right? I mean, you're just like, where can I squeeze these tidy whities, right? There's no room.
It's crazy too today because you have not only your, like, I don't know, like, but I have like 4 calendars. I got a business calendar, I got a personal calendar, I got a community calendar, and then I got a payments calendar. Like, let me know when stuff's due. You know what I mean? So that's the number one thing to me. I never like owing anybody money. So what you're saying you're doing like this with your calendar is absolutely right, because you're trying to squeeze in as much as you can in 24 hours. So that's a little sneak peek into the next month's topic there, and we'll get to that one. But I view that white space as a woosah. Okay, let me go back and see, did I capture everything I needed to this week? Am I missing anything? Do I need to rearrange anything? Because communication is paramount. Whether you're late to an appointment or you're early to an appointment, and maybe that helps the client out more, or, hey, we got this we need to talk about. Communication is key. So I'd like to hear that from you, because I feel you 100%. I like to not have downtime, but you always hear me say this, there's difference between busy and productive, right? So, and that's a whole nother topic, but I just like to hear your input on it. Let's just say what's up to some folks here. Hey, David, thanks for joining us. Our boy Doc Rannigan's over there getting his brain housing group a little bit stronger. Over in New Orleans. He likes to call it NOLA. I think that's what he called it today on his Facebook Live. But hey, brother, we hope you're having a good time. You bring back some good knowledge, and much respect for you for investing back into your business to become educated on what you're doing, so you can be the elite. You can be legendary in your industry.
Yeah. They, we got to give a touch on that, because that investment in yourself. And look, if you're, David, you're watching this, we got some people on Instagram watching this.
Oh, you're live on IG too?
Yeah, but I can't make it work for the both of us. I don't know how.
It's all good.
I may throw the camera at the computer, or I don't know, whatever. We'll break for commercial. But, the fact of the matter is, investing in yourself and in your team for improvement. Mm-hmm. A lot of us, we go get some sort of education. Doesn't matter where it is, School of Hard Knocks, the University of whatever, insert name. And, then you're like, okay, I'm good, man. I got that, dog. I'm just going to do my minimum credits to whatever, but that's the beginning. That's the foundation of the rest of your business life. And you got a couple options. You can go to the School of Hard Knocks, which I did for a long time. And, you get enough black eyes, you're going to go, damn, man, somebody's doing this smarter than I, so you start investing like what Doc is doing. And Doc, we miss you, brother. Thanks for showing up. But, the fact of the matter is, you got to make that investment into, that I could be listening to a really cool podcast on motorcycles. I could be listening to a really cool podcast on adventure biking in Mongolia, right? What my hobbies and interests are. Instead, spending that time, that book was, I don't know, an Audible credit. What is that? $14, make that small investment in yourself. Go buy some training. You want to be the best in your industry. You want to be a world changer. You want to emulate the great, that's a whole nother topic. Make that investment. I mean, don't you agree with that, Jeff?
Man, I think investing in yourself in a number of facets, personally, financially, business related, your circle, I've come up with this new thing I've been kind of living by, is have a tight circle, but a large network. You know what I mean? It's, so I think anytime you invest in yourself, I mean, we live and die by this, guys. We are only in competition with ourselves, and our goal every single day is to be a better man than we were yesterday. If anybody knows us, they know that's truth be told right there. You get what you get with us. There's no sugarcoating. We don't roll that way. That's not how we roll. So investing in yourself is paramount. So I want to recap real quick So for 4 weeks, we've been talking about the sales process, right? And how we've been providing information in 4 different titles leading up to tonight, which is the what's next question, right? So we're going to just recap quickly, a couple minutes apiece. Week 1 in our sales process, and we'll just ping pong this back and forth. Casey, if something hits your brain, just run with it. But vision and innovating was week 1 and week 2. And when we went back and watched and listened to week 1, it ended up being more so about core values and how your core values in your business, your business and your personal core values should bleed over into your sales process. So let's just recap kind of what that means and how those core values strengthen your sales process.
Well, we had talked about that core value, and that was something that I was embarrassed to say that I had not even developed that for my own company. And I was inspired by another great business owner, great motivator, Brandon Dawson, who basically said in a class, "Hey, if you don't have your company's core values locked down, that's fine. Steal mine. Just here they are." Yeah. Right. And that gave me an idea about alignment to strengthen the sales force. And I asked everybody on my team to say, "Hey, give me a list of your core values." And it was amazing how much in alignment. And I guess, that was really blind luck. Really blind luck, but almost like 90% in complete alignment. I mean, maybe one word that means the exact same thing, different from the other, but all of them there. But the big ones that jump out, persistence, performance, right, competency, alignment, loyalty, right? These were things that my team was telling me, God, family, friendship, leadership, right? And it meant a lot it reaffirmed a lot, and you're talking about a minute ago about communication and communication breakdown. And, I'm so tempted to get kicked off the show by throwing some Led Zeppelin on there. Oh, wait. Well, hang on. We don't want to get sued, so I'll kill that. Siri, turn off Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? Not a bad choice of tunes, though. But.
No. But that communication, like, as critical. You said that a moment ago. Communication's key. So I know you wanted to mention that, but then you saw some of our comments. So Jeff, when we're talking about core values and communicating that to your team, communication is key. What does that mean to you?
From a Marine Corps field radio operator, communication's paramount, right? We had this saying in the Marine Corps: you can talk shit about us, but you can't talk without us, right? And without a radio in the battlefield, it's a dead zone, right? So I kind of treat that the same way with my business, with my friendships, with my family. I'm a very assertive, upfront, candid guy, and I've had a lot of people over my career tell me that it's important to have candor. It's important to have communication, and it made sense to me throughout all the years. But when you turn from employee to business owner, the communication senses are heightened. You now are having to not only communicate with shareholders, stakeholders, employees, vendors, the people that help you run your business, which in my opinion, communicating with those who we work for as leaders, because I firmly believe that as leaders, we work for our peers, we work with them. I think it's paramount, man. Give me an example today, going back and forth with a client, schedules are always conflicting, right? That's that chaos of life that we have. It doesn't always work out, but why it worked out and why we're still having a communication with this client is because we stayed in contact. Hey, sorry, I missed you. Call me back. Hey, missed you. Call me back. Playing the phone tag or whatever. But they understand that things happen, and they understand that only if you relay that information to them, which is communication, right? And nowadays there's so many ways to do it. So the excuse of, oh, I forgot, or, oh, someone, I had a colleague and I were talking today or yesterday about, he had a contractor that was supposed to go on site, do a couple things, no call, no show. There's too many ways to communicate nowadays for you to have the excuse that you can't do it. Facebook Messenger, text message, email, video call. I mean, dude, give me a break. There's no excuse why you can't keep in touch with your team, with your personnel, with your clients. So not trying to beat a dead horse. If you're having issues with communication, I think the solution is to just start now. Who cares about the past? Just start doing it now, right? Follow up with your clients after the sale. Follow up with your clients after the meeting. Follow up with the clients after the job. The whole deal right there. So it's important to me, man. Communication is key. I mean, you know that more. I am a firm believer of it.
Man, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And in the busy 100-mile world that I like to live in, something critical to learn is slow down a little bit. Slow down a little bit.
It's tough though.
Don't grab a call in between hearings at the courthouse because you got 5 minutes, right? Because that's not a 5-minute problem. That's a 35-minute problem. So dedicate, again, be where your feet are. Focus on that problem.
Yeah.
Right. Make sure you're given that client. And this has got to be a core value, right? And it's got to be part of your, what we talked about those first 2 weeks, innovating your sales processes, but that needs to include making sure you're delivering those expectations that you made in the customer's mind.
Absolutely. Yeah.
During that sale where they're like, God, dog, I want to do business with Doc Rannigan or Aaron Withrow or David Schwartz or, Louis Medina, any number of our brothers and sisters out there who are supporting this organization and what we're doing, but it's the delivery after that's got to be part of the core values. And a huge part of that is that communication, making sure there is no communication break, because Jeff, more than anyone, you go into an operation, the radios die, right? And that's what the customer feels like, right? What can you do when the radios aren't? I mean, I'll tell you what, out on a rescue on the water, man. I mean, we live and breathe on channel 16, right? Like that is how we manage chaos.
It's no joke, man. It's no joke in the military or in the civilian sector. I mean, in your core values, maybe it's not the main title of that. Like mine is be accountable, right? One of them is accountability. And under that is I have like 10 or 12 bullet points on what be accountable means. So if you have the core values laid out and whatever the title may be, and it says communication under, that should be something that is what we call an expectation for that value, right? And you want to make sure that those core values and expectations under each one of them are enhancing your sales process, right? Because at the end of the day, we've said it 100 times this month, every one of us is a salesman or woman, your sales rep, however you want to say it. So make sure that you're innovating with your sales process. Make sure that those core values tie directly to the process of how you sell your brand. Yeah. Because it's not about the box. Like, hey, it's not these Apple AirPods. It's the value they bring to you, meaning I can take 15 phone calls all day long with it in my ear and I can still be productive, but yet I'm still getting the value of not having to take away my hands. So you're selling the value, not the product. If you remember that, it'll take you a little bit further. And I'm not saying it's for everybody. Sometimes you have to sell the product. The guy that knocked on your door got this Ring vacuum for you. That's a product, but you think he was selling more of the product, or he was selling what that product does for you and how it solves your solutions. So keep that in mind, man. It's a big deal, and it's something I've learned in the past. I would say probably the last year. I had a huge role as a career project manager, and then having to turn from that to business owner sales rep guy. I'm not the pushiest sales guy, and Doc gives me shit all the time. Yeah, most of the time. I don't think you have to be successful in sales. I think you had said it last week, and maybe you can touch base on it. There's like a small percentage of those like crazy salespeople that are just like raw, in your face, knucklehead type salespeople, and no one likes those guys.
Yeah, that's so little of the sales force, the high pressure tactic. I mean, maybe the timeshare sales force or something like that, but most people really are turned off by that super high pressure tactic. And there's a time and a place that is appropriate, but I'm not a high pressure. I think it's important to minimize the time. I mean, look, they thought about it when they came to see you. They thought about it when they searched your ass up on Google. Yeah, they did. Right? If you believe statistics, the depending on where you're getting that data and information, by the time they get to you, they're already almost at the 50-yard line.
Yeah, they're halfway there.
They're close to going over to your side of the field, right? And becoming your client, because they've done, there's so much information in the palm of our hands, on our laptops, on our tablets. They have formulated all. They may have gone and talked to another AV company, another roofing company has been to their door. So they've got a lot of information already, and it's just a situation where you need to get them down to the one, and then on the goal line, and then in right. So the high pressure sale, I think, doesn't, it just doesn't work. I know that there's probably a scenario where it could work, and maybe, if the flow was appropriate and they were interested in it and they believed in it, or, P.T. Barnum said, a sucker's born every minute, and somebody's having fun at a carnival, and you're just like, whatever, man, give me 100 more tickets for the fun house.
Yeah.
That kind of situation, but that's a rare situation, and you're not gonna have laying on the beach money, because that's not an ethical way to sell, right?
Well, I think there's also too that when you start talking about like the third week that we talked about overcoming objections, there was a few different objections, and then we gave you some tactics that would kind of handle those objections, and one of them was being the assertive sales type. But you have to have a pretty good relationship with someone to say, hey, you need to make a decision right now, or your project's not going to fit in my pipeline. And it's got to be tactful. It's got to be professional, because the moment you turn into the asswad sales guy, the ears go off 100%. They may be sitting there present in front of you physically, but you've done turned them off. They're thinking about their golf round next Thursday. They don't give two shits what you're talking about. So be tactful with it.
You're so right. They're looking to exit the sales cycle, right? They're like, this sale is over. This guy is not listening to me. I'm whether that's valid or not, but there's a whole better way, I think. And we talked about that in those objections about, acknowledging what's going on.
Listening with intent.
Big decision here. You do need to think about it, but you thought about it when you looked on the internet. You thought about it when you made the appointment with me, and I know that you're a cautious person, just like myself, and I think about every decision thoroughly. And there's nothing wrong with allowing them either more time to think and enlarging that sales process, because sometimes that's what it takes to get it done, and you got to kill them with your follow-up, which needs to be part of your core values of your sales cycle, that communication and those follow-ups, because no now doesn't mean no forever. And that's giving that space. I don't like that, because in the business I'm in, being indecisive, usually when you're not making decisions on the water, you end up on the rocks. Just that simple.
And we're not talking about the vodka rocks. We're talking about the rocks.
I'm not talking about a vodka and Sprite or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm talking about your ship.
Hypothetical rocks.
Yeah, your ship has drifted off course because you are doing nothing. You are making no decisions. So you know who's in charge? The winds and the tides.
So, but here's the other thing too, with handling objections, you want to hit them face forward. You're right. You want to hit them head on. And I want to touch base on this because you said it in a roundabout way, but the bottom line to it with handling objections is the listening factor. Doc says it all the time. He who talks first loses. You know what? And it rings true here because when a client says, I need to talk to, or I need to get approval, or let me get back to you, or whatever, you should be listening to what they're saying, because what they're trying to say to you without saying it is, help me make this decision. Help me figure this out so I can make the decision. That's what I'm hearing when I hear objections. And not every sales is a win. You don't win them all. And not every client's my client. Not all money's good money, right? So you also are interviewing that candidate, that opportunity as well. But when you hear the objection, really the client is asking you for help to help him make that decision, or her make that decision. It's a tough one though, because you have to. It's a balancing act. Would you say?
Yeah, it is, and it's a delicate one because you're talking about substantial investments into your service and product.
Yeah.
And when you're asking $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $60,000, $80,000, $120,000 investments over the life of whatever product or service you're selling.
Yeah.
Man, like if Doc were to sheet a metal roof in Rockwall, that job is anywhere from $120,000 to $690,000. I mean, because the equipment, the personal protection that has to be obtained in compliance with law, the right number of crew to work a metal roof. It's a huge job with some profit margin, but most of that is cost and expense and this, that, and the other. And that is a staggering amount of money for a client to be thinking about and going, whoa, I know I got $1 million building, but damn, I didn't know I was going to have $1 million roof. I mean, it's not like I can drive that $1 million roof. It's not in the driveway and I can shine up the wing mirror. So it is a staggering sometimes. And to them, another thing to be sensitive about, the listening is critical, right? And I will tell you that, Doc Ranigan is man, that guy's got the gift for gab, but he's a
businessman.
He's a drilled listener, right? And I remember this all the way back to my first days doing outside sales at Cassell's Auto and Truck in Houston, Texas. Mike, thank you for giving me that shot, man. You put me on a path and you encouraged me and you taught me how to do cold calls. And it was great to work in the heavy diesel truck facility and not always have to work on trucks. Sometimes you got to stand in the air conditioning, go visit a client.
Yeah.
Take a client to lunch,
Little outside sales reps.
Yeah. Those outside sales jobs, man, they're not bad. They're a whole lot better than back in the diesel bay. So, what I'm getting at though, Mike, thanks. But Mike Cassell and Doc Mike Ranigan say the same thing. First thing that Mike taught me was listen up, right? He had a little handout that he gave me. And one of the biggest lesson one on the cold call, the actual phone call, back when you used phones that had buttons on them, they sat on desks. Y'all might remember that.
Yeah.
And then the door knock was listen to the customer. And Doc says that all the time. And it's spot on, man. I mean, that you can't do the fact finding and get what they really need and understand their expectation if you're not being a good listener.
Listening is a part of communication. Most people don't know that. But that might be the most valuable piece of that puzzle in communication is listening. If you listen, there's a difference. It's like in that movie, White Man Can't Jump. You hear Jimmy, but you're not listening to Jimi Hendrix, right? There's a difference. When you listen with intent, you're listening to help solve a problem. And it doesn't matter what you sell in this world, the person sitting on the other side of the table they want you to solve a problem for them.
Yeah.
And in today's world, there's 4 people right behind you that they've probably already called because their buddies who had a bad experience said, make sure you call 3 people, when really sometimes they only need to call 1. You know, I'll tell my clients, you don't need to call any other AV guy. You know, you don't have to. You know why? Because I'm not going to push you into stuff you don't need. I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to answer my daggone phone when you call me, even when it's not business hours, because I care. So overcoming objections is something you should not be afraid of. You should hit them head on. You should listen with intent to solve a problem, and you're going to take away the biggest thing here, which is knowledge, which is how to deal with those objections over and over. Casey does this. He says, don't practice on your clients because that's the most expensive training you have, right? Practice in the background, practice with your circle, your alliance, the people you deal with. You know, I'll call these guys all the time and be like, hey man, I got this situation. Let me throw this at you. And they're either like, yeah, that works great. Or, hey man, you're all jacked up. Hold up. Let's talk this through, you know, and that's the kind of alliance you need to be a part of. So let's jump into this. We've used our core values. We've innovated our sales process. We've dealt with objections and solved the problem. Now we've closed the sale. So now this is where we're getting to the real content of tonight, and it's what's next, right? So we got the check. It's sitting here on our desk. We're ready to, you know, deposit and order equipment and start the project planning cycle and things like that. Casey, what's next, man? Once we sell the job, what's next?
I mean, it's
a big question, huh?
That's a big question. It's going to be industry specific, but you know, the critical things are, you know, I think you got to have stages, right? In the life cycle of the customer service, right? And you need to make sure that they understand that, and not just at the sale, right? Not just during the close, but also remind them about it, right? Like, we've got this step, then we've got that step, then we've got that step.
Yeah.
Right. And here's a way to skip to the end, right? We can do this, and we can maybe skip a step and get you a better solution that we're in charge of. But the biggest thing, back to what you and Doc always talk about, is that communication is key. Not allowing, sometimes 5-10 days is just too long, right? For that communication cycle. And that can feel like a letdown to a customer. So make sure you're slowing down, right? And spending the right amount of time, giving those touches, giving those extra communications. So even if you are excelling in all other parts of the performance of the service or the product, you know, get off the roof for a minute, Doc. I'm sure he does this, but, you know, I'm just using Doc as an example because I don't want to pick on our fans. But I'll pick on myself. You know, step out of the courthouse for a minute and give that 35-minute. Don't take a call between the two courtrooms. Go someplace quiet, hop in your truck, give that, you know, be where your feet are, right?
Yeah.
Not moving on to the next thing, and make sure those expectations are being met and made. Those expectations you made are being met.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to me, what's next after the close of the sale, I think planning is big. You guys know I'm a huge, I'm a project manager by trade, so planning is my thing, right? So, I've already planned through the sale, and I'm talking the sale, I'm talking about the estimating process, the system design, the whole deal. Like, I've already seen this job in its completed form by the time I hand that proposal to the client. And that's me doing my due diligence, going through all of my, crossing the T, dotting the I's, making sure when I hand that over to them and that dollar amount says $15 on it, I don't have to go back to them and say, hey, you know what, this is now $20 because I didn't really think this through. I just wanted to give you a proposal really quick. So I think, to me, the after is the expectations. And I love that you keep hitting on that because it's critical. You want to set the expectation bar, but then you want to exceed. It's in my website, it's in my business plan, it's in the whole deal. We exceed expectations because we set the bar high and we make sure that they understand what they're getting. I think the follow-up to me is making sure that once a sale is closed, that's when you said it in the beginning, like with college, when the sale's closed, that's when it starts. That's when it really kicks off, right?
That's really right, because that's what they bought, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're investing. And it's not just that they bought it. It's not like, it's not just like, oh man, I got a new, Magnavox flat screen television. I don't even know if they make those anymore, Jeff. You can make fun of me for that brand name.
Nah, dated yourself, but it's cool.
You got a brand new Zenith black and white television with a 3-channel remote.
Put a little knob on it.
Yeah. No, man, it had a remote. But I love what you talked about a minute ago about planning, right? And when you're delivering a product and a service, right? Which basically what they're looking for is the result that is going to solve their problem, right? That's why they bought from you in the first place. So that planning stage, right? Now, whether that is a whiteboard, like the coach might pull out, hey, we're going to call a play, right? And this is how we're going to win the game. Whether you whiteboard it, whether you write out a very detailed plan, if you already know generally what that is, you create a workflow, right? We're going to do this, and this.
Yep.
But that way you're communicating to your customer that here are the links between what the problem you want me to solve is, right? Yeah. That's their expectation. You're solving my problem. This is why I am investing with you. And then how that service, and sometimes service and products combined, is going to be delivered by your team of trained professionals, which includes you for most of us, right?
Yeah.
For most of us, we are still every bit a part of the product and service machine as we are management, right? We're still a massive part of that product and service. And then
the CEO down to chief bottle washer.
Yeah, that's it, man. That you're the.
Here's one thing I'll tell you. What you're explaining right now is what a project manager would call a scope of work. And what I do and what helps me is when a job has a lot of moving parts in it, and any project manager will swear by this, and some of them have to do this, and it has to be written into their contracts, is they'll generate a scope of work. Obviously, in my industry, we work by rooms, family room, media room, theater, outside patio, so forth and so on. So I will accompany a proposal, which what does everybody do with a proposal? Swipes all the way to the bottom. What's the daggone number, right? So if you don't care about all the boxes and little play toys and stuff that go inside your system, at least you have a scope of work that says, hey, look, this dollar value is going to give you this scope of work. Now, what that does is two things. That sets the expectations and stamps it in black and white. That means you giving them that when they approve that proposal, and no matter what industry you're in, that dollar amount now correlates to that scope of work. You now have formally set the expectations. Anything outside of that scope of work, we call scope creep. And Casey and I were talking offline about this, and what scope creep is. Hey, Jeff, while you're here, can you hang this TV in my other bedroom? Hey, Jeff, while you're here, can you make this do something different than you thought you would? So be real cautious with providing a scope of work and not sticking to it, because I will tell you from experience with previous companies that I've worked for, scope creep can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in the course of a year, because that one task that the client was like, oh, in my mind, it takes 5 minutes for these guys to stop doing what they're doing over here and come do this over here. Add that up, Casey, with your legal team. How many hours a day can you really afford for your paralegal to stop doing this and do 4 other things and then jump all the way back?
Man, scope creep is a huge, that is in the big box world, they call that shrink.
Shrink.
Right. That's where they're losing They're losing time. They're losing products. They're losing service. And they're shrinking their dollars, right? So they look for ways to stop that. You know, like an example, a smaller store where you don't have employees walking around. You know, look how huge Costco is. How many man hours are wasted stocking shelves at Costco because it's so massive.
Let's do an even better one. Let's talk about TxDOT. How many times you drove past a stop sign where one dude's digging a hole and 18 other guys are on their freaking cell phone or holding a stop sign?
Yeah. And hey Chris, that's really, I appreciate that comment, man. I feel the exact same way, brother, and I really do appreciate that comment. The thing you got to be vigilant for that, you know, so you're not a TxDOT, right? So you're not wasting, when you're talking about that creep, that creep usually ends up being the hardest work you're doing, right?
Oh yeah.
You didn't come to that job site with that in your toolbox.
You weren't prepared.
Now you got to stop. You're like, okay, we're putting the brakes on.
Yeah.
And now we've got to go do a whole bunch of other, we got to get a different set of tools. We got to load up the toolbox for this problem, which was not in the scope of work, not planned for, not contracted for. You want it as an add-on and you want to wow your client, but man, sometimes you need to stop the creep work and it needs to be on the list of things you can't do, right?
Yeah, I can tell you right now, wowing your client is going to be a professional company that runs the company how it's supposed to be ran. Dude, I'm telling you right now, I had multiple discussions with technicians that worked directly for me over the years, and I would pull them in every 2 quarters, or I would take one of them to lunch solo by himself. Hey, how's it going? Whatever it is. And the number one thing that out of 15 plus years of project management was managing the schedule properly and understanding the scope of work. The guys will work for you. If they trust you and they know you have their back, they'll go to bat for you every day of the week. What's going to frustrate your team every day of the week is when you say, hey, stop doing what you're doing, pick up your tools and go over here and do this. Their whole world is in a like right now, you know what I mean? And that's with any industry. That's legal, AV, roofing, financial management, whatever it may be. So make sure that those expectations are clearly defined up front. And if a client asks you for additional work, the proper response for me and my business is absolutely, I would love to help you with that. Let me finish the scope of work that we're here and we've agreed upon to do, because we're prepared to do that. And then at the end of the day, when we do the walkthrough, let me see how much time I have left. And if we don't have that time, hey, we'll schedule a service to come back, or we'll schedule a secondary trip to come back for you. I promise you every day of the week that client's going to understand that 100%.
They totally will. And that is a way to prevent yourself from doing the hardest work you're going to do, because you're not going to have that. One, you didn't let the client down. You'll add that in, you'll make that happen, right? You can still provide that wow and that pizzazz, but you're not going to be grinding so hard on this unforeseen project that you're trying to take on the side. So, again, it seems like it's going to be an easy one, but then it starts popping you out of that SOW, and no other way to characterize it, man. It's the hardest work you're going to do. You're going to have to break out the law books, figure out what the hell this problem is, right? And have to brief that up to a totally different judge. And the next thing you know, you might be making an appearance in Cameron County, Texas, a place you've never been, in front of a judge who doesn't know you, because you're like, oh yeah, I'll handle that too, right? So you got this scope of work that just ballooned into something massive, and it could be massively good for that client, but on the other hand, it could be the hardest work you're doing, because you're in unfamiliar territory. You didn't have a chance to prepare and plan, right? And your scope of work is on the fly.
Yeah, it's anything that's not defined in your scope of work, and we've always had this saying in the AV industry that the last 10% of the job is the most critical. And it goes hand in hand with how I carry my business, which is successes in the details, because that last 10% of that project is typically always the details. Imagine building a home, foundation, framing, sheetrock, finished trim. The last 10% is what? All the doorknobs, all the cleaning, all the screws that are 12 and 6, all the little bitty things that go on. So be mindful of it. So when we say, hey, we've closed the sale, what's next? Make sure your expectations are set before the sale is closed. But now the what's next answer is to carry out those expectations with an extreme integrity, with absolute transparency. And I guarantee you the clients are going to understand. I've had to go back to my clients and say, you know what? I missed this. You know what? I'm going to take care of that as a business owner within reason, right? Within reason. And just make sure you're upholding your end of the bargain. So let's talk about the what's next when it goes sideways, right? What happens when the sale is closed, expectations are set, scope of work's provided, and now the client has decided, man, you know what? I think I want to change my mind. That happens.
It does, and it's hard, and sometimes it happens, and it's it feels unfair, right? It feels unfair because there's been if you're delivering, anybody on this, David, Chris, Doc, Jeff, you, people on Instagram, Carson, Clay, thank you guys. But anybody who's watching this, y'all are delivering over and above, right? You're delivering at a level that sets you apart. And sometimes that's not enough for some clients, right? And that's a bitter pill to swallow, right? So when that happens, that goes sideways on you, and they're like, you know what? I'd rather somebody who ignores my calls. Makes me feel like they're more important. I've literally heard this, right? I'm going to go work with somebody who's impossible to reach. Makes me feel like they're more important. Okay. That's like, how do you even make sense of that? And that you don't make sense of it, right? If that has to do, well, one, you make sense of it by accepting responsibility for that and everything, right, that goes on with your customers. And then two, just realizing that something's more likely than not going on with that customer.
Yeah.
Right. That customer, and even though you're applying that same level of exceed all expectation that you had, for the Skinner family, that it wasn't working for that customer. And maybe there's just something going on with that customer that, oh, you know what? We're going to hire somebody who used to be the best friend and play golf with the judge when the judge went back, when she was back in law school. She was a professional, she was an amateur golfer on the University of Arkansas golf team. And this lady was on her team 30 years ago. So we're going to hire that person because we think that'll move the needle. Okay. Yeah. I mean, here's what moves the needle in my business. Good facts. One of the first lawyers I ever worked for was an ex-FBI agent before he became a lawyer. And he said, look, man, good facts win cases, bad facts lose them. And you got good things going on. You uncover a latent defect in a wall, Jeff, right? That's where that just went sideways. Scope of work blown up because there's something crazy behind the wall that you could not have known about. Right? Example, Jonathan Wasden had to fix a leak in my house over the weekend. I was so blessed he's part of this alliance. Thanks, Jonathan. Came over on a Saturday to deal with this leaking hot water that is, because this is a 30-year-old house. They put the hot water line in between the piers that are holding up the second floor, in between them.
Oh, wow.
So it can never be soldered again. How smart was that? Right? That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Right. So it's either destroy the wall or patch the line as carefully as possible. But that's the kind of stuff that goes sideways. Your scope of work has just crept over into, hey, Casey, I'm sorry, I got to trash your house. Right. And so tell us about that, because I know you encounter that, Jeff.
Man, you know what? I've seen a lot of crazy stuff in almost the 20 years I've been doing some AV work. And I think David, man, David, thanks for following us. I feel like you've been watching us the whole night, which is probably a record. So I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for sticking around. But I think he said it and summed it up here. Learn the lesson, take ownership, and move forward. I think that the thing that I love the most about that is the ownership part, because it's something that I drill into my son when he makes a mistake as a 14-year-old young man. Is mistakes happen. It's bound to happen. Own up to it, right? Yeah. You got a bad grade on that test. Own up to it. What'd you really do? Well, I didn't study, Dad. Well, there you go. That's the problem. Now you know the solution, right? Get off your ass and study your books a little more. So I think ownership is the first and foremost. If we mess up at black level AV, if something doesn't go right, I'll give you an example. We're cutting a hole in the wall to retrofit some wires not too long ago. Oops, hey, this hole we don't need. We actually needed to be 6 inches over. So you know what I did? I called the guy. I called in and had him patch and paint it at no cost to my client whatsoever. Why do you, what business owner would say, hey, you guys have to pay for this now? Absolutely not. If you're doing business that way, that's completely wrong. So I think the ownership thing is kind of hitting the nail on the head for me, because not everything goes right. You know what I mean? You can always prepare for it. I'll paraphrase this, but our good friend Quint Abinetti was a hard-charging Marine who led us into the Iraq War. We were crossing the line of departure, and this man was the guy moving the chess pieces. And he says to me, and I'll paraphrase, no matter what plan you have in a war zone or in your project will ever go as fully planned, right? We've talked about contingencies in the past. So you want to have some contingencies. You want to have some backups. I typically go to projects with the what if contingency. So I'll order a couple of extra of this or a couple of extra of that, because a day to come back is a back and forth. I'm losing money now rather than just spending that money up front and investing in my business to make sure I have what I need. So if you mess up or the job goes sideways, own up to it. The clients may not be happy. They might not love it, but you know what? They're going to respect the fact that you were honest and your integrity was high. That's my thing. So great comment, David. Love that.
Yeah.
So, man, it's a good conversation, dude. I think we're getting close to the wrap up here. And you have any saved rounds? You want to follow up with anything you got left in your brain housing group over there?
Hey, real quick. That this is a win from the week. Yeah. But and I put it out there in the universe the other day, but I just like this one's still sticking with me. So, getting up early, working on your free throws, that's part of my drill. That's part of my rhythm, part of my flow. Mm-hmm. Put yourself in an opportunity for success, right? And maybe getting up early ain't for you. Maybe it's staying up late, doing that 7 to 11 shift. Doesn't matter what it is. Make time for those free throws, for those extra wins. You do that, and you put yourself in a position for other successes, and I've video logged or whatever you want to call it, Facebook, but I'm out for my morning run. I'm back up to running 2.2 miles a day.
Get it.
Yeah. And I run into a neighbor and a colleague, and we start talking business. And so now, right, just like, here we are. The moon's out. It's dark, right? Like barely see each other. He's got a little flashlight. I'm like, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Yeah, let's run for a little while. What are you doing, Lyle? What are you doing? I got this business deal. Let's talk about that business deal. It's like you put yourself in a position for other successes, right? Just by putting yourself out there. So, get up early, stay up late, whatever it is that works for you, but make sure you're finding ways to work on your free throws, but also give yourself extra opportunities for successes you didn't even know were coming, right? I mean, that's just one of those, bam.
I'll tell you right now,
here we are on the block.
I mean, true change comes in uncomfortable situations. And sometimes you got to put yourself out there. Sometimes you got to own up to mistakes when you don't want to. You got to swallow that humility pill, right? And it's okay, because at the end of the day, we're only in competition with ourselves. We say it over and over and over, and we live that, right? You want to be a better man or woman than you were yesterday. It starts now. And everything that we talk about on this whole show for now, literally a year, we've been every week for a year. The biggest thing that we take away, even from providing all this content, is the action. Without, I mean, you know, all this talk is bullshit unless you put some action to it. So at the end of the day, man, the Patriot Business Alliance is here. Doc, we miss you tonight, brother, but I hope you're getting some good education over there in New Orleans. The Patriot Business Alliance is here to, you know, we want you guys to be involved. We want you guys to come on. Chris, David, you know, Doc, all you guys, Jenna, hey, thanks for joining us. We're about to cut it off, but you can go back and rewatch it and share it with your friends. I'm going to throw up real quick our email address here, patriotbusinessalliancetx@gmail.com. If you guys have any questions, you want to get involved, you have things to share. More importantly, if you're a subject matter expert in something that you feel like this show hasn't talked about in the past few months, and you want to bring that content to us, we're more than happy to have you join us. We do stream lives. We're obviously remote tonight, but usually we got the war room set up. I mean, the synergy there is killer. I'm telling you, like, we just want to provide this information so we can just see one of you guys increase your sales. One of you girls have your best year ever. You know, last year, the Alliance, our Alliance collectively had $7 million businesses. 50 employees were, you know, hired. Some people like myself had our best years ever, and it's because we surrounded ourselves with people that were better than us. And we're asking each other for help, and we're helping each other out. We're doing what we can. So, man, Casey, I appreciate you taking the time tonight. I think this is a good one. You guys are going to want to stick around because we're entering quarter 2 tomorrow, right? So any of you jokers out there that like to play those April Fools, little hoo-yahs, don't bring that shit this way. I promise you that.
Yeah, keep the April Fools. You know, we'll just limit that to Aaron Withrow. And
send it all to AW.
Poor Aaron.
Other than that, we're gonna start talking about next month what to do with the 24-hour clock. Tonight was about we close the sale and what's next. Okay, what are we gonna be able to do with the 24-hour clock to make ourselves better personally, professionally, mentally, physically? We'll let Doc bring in some of his folks. He's got a couple of guys on standby ready to talk as well. So other than that, hey, Casey, I appreciate you taking the time, and we're going to head out from here and get some chow and get ready for $10,000 Thursday.
$10,000 Thursday. You guys have a great night. Thank y'all.
All right, boys. Semper Fi.
Semper Paratus.